A deadly virus has spread worldwide, wiping out most of the human population. 4 survivors are traveling together, hoping to reach a safe place to escape the outbreak. While driving, they notice a car blocking the road. Inside the car are a man named Frank and his young daughter Jody. Frank asks the group if they could spare some fuel. However, Kate warns everyone that Jody is infected with the virus, and Brian quickly starts the engine to drive away. Frank grabs a wrench and smashes their car window. Brian reacts fast, steering the car to the side and speeding off. Unfortunately, the car gets damaged in the process, and gasoline starts leaking onto the road. A while later, their vehicle completely breaks down. With no other choice, the group decides to carry fuel cans and return to Frank. As they approach, Brian pulls out a gun and aims it at Frank, making it clear that they intend to take his car. Frank reveals that a scientist has developed a temporary cure at a high school nearby. He insists that he needs to take Jody there so she can be treated. Brian remains skeptical of Frank's claim, but Danny comes up with a plan. He suggests that the 4 of them sit in the front seats, while Frank and Jody stay in the back. To prevent infection, they sterilize the entire car, and Danny uses a plastic sheet to separate the infected girl from the rest of the group. As they drive for a while, they notice an abandoned car a short distance ahead. Hoping to find fuel, Danny and Brian approach the vehicle. As they open the door, they find the body of an infected man inside. Danny reaches in to grab the car keys, but the man suddenly moves and weakly tries to speak. Danny bolts out of the car while the infected man desperately bangs on the door for help. The brothers quickly flee, leaving the infected man behind. Eventually, they arrive at an abandoned town that has been completely wiped out by the infection. They reach the high school, hoping to find the cure. Bobby stays in the car with Jody while the others break into the school. While searching for the serum, the group spots a young child running into a room. They follow the child and discover a doctor still working inside the school. Frank pleads with the doctor to save Jody, but the doctor explains that he has already done everything he could, but he was unable to find a cure. Feeling defeated, the 4 leave the school. Meanwhile, in the car, Bobby is playing with Jody, when suddenly, Jody starts struggling to breathe and collapses. Bobby pulls down the plastic shield to help the girl. She removes Jody's mask so she can breathe more easily, but Jody coughs up blood all over Bobby in the car. Bobby quickly retapes the shield and removes her bloody coat before the others return. When Frank gets back, he sees Jody lying weakly in the car. Jody tells her father she needs to go to the bathroom, so Frank helps her. Before leaving, he thanks Danny and others for their kindness. As soon as Frank and Jody step away, Brian urges the rest of the group to get in the car and drive off. Later that day, as Danny and Kate sterilize the back seats, Bobby secretly throws her bloody coat under the car, saying nothing so they won't abandon her. The group then heads toward a nearby hotel to spend the night. That night, while Danny and Kate are in the hotel lobby, they notice lights moving near the entrance. They immediately grab a knife and hide in the kitchen. An armed man enters the hotel, and Danny and Kate quietly sneak out of the kitchen, but before they can escape, they are caught by the armed survivors. Meanwhile, Brian returns to the hotel and realizes that Danny, Kate, and Bobby are being held hostage by a group of men dressed in protective suits. The leader of the group orders Bobby and Kate to remove their clothes for an inspection. As they do, the men discover Bobby's infection. Terrified of getting infected, the leader immediately lets them go, ordering them to leave the hotel. The next morning, the group continues their journey, but the tension is high because Bobby is now infected. Brian forces Bobby to leave the group. She pleads with Brian to let her stay, but he refuses, saying it's the only way to keep the rest of them safe. As the car starts moving, Bobby runs after them, begging not to be abandoned, but the group doesn't stop. After some time, the car runs out of fuel. In the distance, they spot another vehicle.
Brian!
Danny approaches the vehicle, where he finds 2 women inside. He tries to negotiate with them, asking for some fuel, but Brian suddenly pulls out his gun and shoots the driver. Danny is furious and yells at Brian for murdering innocent people. But Brian walks toward the car and forces the surviving woman to step out. The woman pulls out her own gun and shoots Brian in the leg. Brian falls to the ground, but still manages to fire back and kill her. He limps toward the car in pain and orders Danny to take the fuel. Danny is overwhelmed with rage and the brothers start fighting. Brian defends his actions, saying that in this situation, they have no choice but to prioritize their own survival. Danny is too shocked to respond, but realizes Brian might be right. The trio refuels the car and drives off, with Kate now behind the wheel since Brian is injured. Danny suggests stopping at an abandoned house nearby to search for some medicine. He climbs up and sneaks inside. He enters a room and finds the body of an infected woman sitting in a chair, still holding a gun. He takes the gun from her hand for self-defense. As he moves deeper into the house, he finds a wild dog eating the remains of an infected man. Danny notices a table nearby with some medicine on it. Carefully, he steps forward, hoping not to startle the dog. But as he reaches for the medicine, he accidentally knocks over the medicine. The noise startles the dog, which immediately attacks him, and Danny is forced to shoot and kill the dog in self-defense. When he returns to the others, his shirt is covered in the dog's blood. He explains what happened and starts treating Brian's wound. But Danny realizes that Brian is infected. He pulls Kate aside and tells her the truth. Kate wants to leave Brian behind, but Danny refuses as he can't abandon his own brother. That night, Brian asks Danny to give him the car keys, saying he wants to ensure they won't abandon him. Danny hesitates, but hands him the keys. As Brian's condition worsens, he starts losing consciousness. Danny carefully reaches into Brian's pocket and manages to steal back both the car keys and the gun. But just as Danny and Kate try to leave, Brian suddenly wakes up. Danny and Kate run toward the vehicle, trying to start the engine and drive off. But Brian had secretly switched the real car keys earlier. Kate hands the gun to Danny and tells him to do what must be done. Danny tries to reason with Brian, asking for the keys, but Brian keeps walking toward him, refusing to stop. Left with no other option, Danny pulls the trigger. The next morning, Danny sits beside Brian's burned body. After a while, he and Kate get back in the car and continue driving toward the safe zone.